window to the universe. You are listening to Risale-i Podcasts.
Welcome to Risale-i Podcasts.
Great to be diving in again.
Absolutely. So today we're setting our sights on The Ninth Word by Sincerity.
A really rich piece.
It is. And specifically, we want to explore the wisdom Sincerity saw in the appointed times for the 5 daily prayers. He lays it out in 5 key points.
That's right. 5 distinct perspectives on why these specific times matter.
So our mission, if you will, for this deep dive is to really unpack those points together, try and grasp the insights he's offering about the significance of these timings.
And, before we jump into the first point, it might be helpful to remember something foundational Sincerity mentions about God's creation.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, he says he creates the huge spring with the ease of creating a flower.
Okay.
Nothing obstructs anything else. There is no fragmentation in his regarding things. He is present everywhere at the same instant through the disposal of his knowledge and power.
So, like, immense power, but effortless.
Yeah. Effortless and completely unified. No division, no struggle. It's a key idea to keep in mind as we look at these prayer times, which seem so precisely ordained.
Right. Okay. That's a fascinating stage. So let's look at this first point then. It talks about interconnectedness, doesn't it? How everything in the universe is linked.
Exactly. And Sincerity doesn't just state it, he illustrates it. He says something like, each particle, each creature, each living being resembles a soldier who has different relations with all the sections of the army.
A soldier.
And different duties that look to each. All particles and living beings are similar to this. That analogy of a soldier connected to the whole army, what does that bring up for you?
Well, it immediately makes me think beyond just, a simple object. A soldier has purpose, responsibilities, connections. It's not isolated.
Precisely. And he takes it even further, making it incredibly tangible.
Yeah.
He gives this example. Let me find it. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
A particle in your eye.
Okay, tiny. Yeah.
Right, super tiny. But he says it has a relation with the cells of the eye, with the eye itself, the facial nerves, and the blood vessels of the body. And it has duties arising from those relations.
Duties from a particle.
Duties, yes, and benefits. It yields based on those duties. He says you can compare everything with this. So even that minuscule particle is woven into this huge, complex system.
That's profound. So if even a tiny particle is that integrated with roles and relationships, then maybe these specific prayer times aren't just rules, but more like nodes, points of connection within that larger, intricate, universal structure. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It suggests alignment. If the universe operates with this deep interconnectedness and purpose, then moments dedicated to connecting with the source of that order.
Well, it seems natural they'd have their own specific, meaningful place in the rhythm of things.
Okay. That leads nicely into the second point, I think, which revisits that idea of God's power and ease in creation.
Yes, the effortlessness we touched on earlier. We did. But now, thinking about this web of connections, how does that effortless yet all-powerful creation relate to the timing of prayers?
Well, think about it. If, as Sincerity says, creating the entire spring season is as easy as making one flower.
He creates the huge spring with the ease of creating a flower.
Yeah. Then orchestrating the universe with absolute precision down to the timing of when a believer should turn towards him isn't some complex, taxing effort.
Right. It's just part of that same seamless, powerful flow of creation. It's not like setting a complicated alarm clock. It's more like aligning with a natural cosmic pulse.
Exactly. You see this perfect timing and order everywhere in creation, don't you? The seasons, planetary orbits, biological rhythms.
Sure.
So it stands to reason that our direct line of communication with the Creator, prayer, would also be part of that grand, purposeful design with its own inherent optimal timing. It fits the pattern.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the third point seems to shift focus a bit.
Yeah.
It moves from the cosmic scale more towards us, our inner state, sincerity specifically.
Yes, sincerity or ikhlas. It's crucial. Sincerity really emphasizes how our intention impacts everything, especially acts of worship. He connects a lack of sincerity directly to, negative outcomes.
How so?
He says something quite direct. So, O people of truth, given to dispute and afflicted with disaster, it is through your loss of sincerity and your failure to make God's pleasure your sole aim that you have caused the people of truth to undergo this humiliation and defeat.
Wow, that's strong. Linking sincerity directly to collective well-being.
Very strong. He sees it as the foundation. And then he points out what undermines it. He talks about rivalry and envy, especially in religious matters.
Right. He says, In matters relating to religion and the hereafter, there should be no rivalry, envy, or jealousy.
Indeed, there can be none of these in truth, because envy arises when people are competing for the same limited thing.
Okay, so how does this connect back to the timed prayers?
Well, think about the act itself. Setting aside specific times, regardless of what others are doing, purely to connect with the divine, that act itself becomes a training ground for sincerity. You're not doing it against someone or for recognition.
Ah, I see. The timing reinforces the why. It's not about comparing your piety to someone else's schedule. It's about your appointment with God, purely for his sake.
Exactly. It helps detach the act from ego, from worldly comparison. It fosters that focus solely on divine pleasure, which, as he points out, is the spirit of all good deeds.
That's a really practical angle on sincerity. Okay, point 4 takes another interesting turn, looking at difficulties like illness. How does that fit in?
It's about perspective, isn't it? How we frame challenges. Said Nursey offers a view that might seem counterintuitive at first. He actually says, through experience, I have formed the opinion that for some people, sickness is a divine bounty, a gift of the most merciful.
A bounty? A gift? That's unexpected.
He explains it through observation. He noticed that young people who became ill, well, he says, all of them have begun to think of the hereafter more than other young people.
Ah, it shifts their focus.
Right. They lack the drunkenness of youth and have renounced to an extent animal desires and heedlessness. Illness woke them up, essentially. Turned their attention from fleeting things to eternal realities, to their dependence on God.
Okay, I can see that. So the connection to prayer times. Is it that prayer, performed consistently at its times, can serve a similar purpose even without illness? Like a regular wake-up call?
Precisely. It's a structured way to cultivate that same awareness, that turning away from heedlessness and towards the eternal. It's a discipline that reminds you 5 times a day of the bigger picture, your connection, your dependence. It fosters reflection, much like illness can force reflection upon someone.
It's a proactive cultivation of that perspective, rather than a reactive one prompted by crisis.
You could put it that way, yes. A regular reorientation.
Right, okay. And finally, the 5th point. It seems to loop back, doesn't it? Back to God's immense power and knowledge again.
It does. It reinforces that foundational understanding. It's almost like cementing the idea that these timings aren't random, but part of an incredibly intricate, divinely orchestrated system.
How does he frame it here?
He uses this powerful logical argument about attribution. Essentially, he says, if all things are not altogether attributed to that pre-eternal, all-powerful one, the one knowing of all things,
okay,
the particles which work in that tiny fly's body will have to know the mysteries of the fly's creation and its perfect art in all its minutest details.
Meaning, it's impossible for particles to have that knowledge.
Utterly impossible. It highlights the absurdity of trying to explain the universe's complexity without a single, all-knowing, all-powerful creator. That intricate design points inescapably back to him.
So the precision in a fly's creation, or a particle in the eye, or the timing of prayers, it all stems from that same singular wise source.
Exactly. It's all part of the same tapestry, woven by the all-wise planner and compassionate nurturer, as said Nursey describes God. The prayer times are just another manifestation of that perfect wisdom and order.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. As we've explored said Nursey's 9th word, we've seen how these specified prayer times are far from arbitrary.
Definitely not. We saw the deep interconnectedness, like that particle in the eye, reflecting a universe with inherent purpose, which prayer times align with.
And we touched on God's effortless power creating springs as easily as flowers, making the precision of prayer time seem natural, not laborious.
Then there was the crucial role of sincerity, how praying at set times can actually train us to focus purely on God's pleasure, away from rivalry.
Right. And even challenges like illness can shift our perspective towards the eternal. A shift that regular timely prayer helps cultivate proactively.
It all paints a picture of prayer times as deeply integrated into the fabric of a wisely ordered existence.
This deep dive really just scratches the surface of the wisdom in Risale-i, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much more.
But it gives us a lot to think about. Considering that profound order and connection in our own lives, how does that discipline of prayer at specific times ground us, connect us more deeply?
It's a powerful practice for cultivating that connection.
And it makes you wonder, what other parts of our daily routines, things we might take for granted, could hold similar layers of divine wisdom if we just, looked a bit closer?
That's a great question to carry forward. Where else is that wisdom embedded, waiting to be uncovered?
Something definitely worth reflecting on.
You have listened to the Risale-i Nur podcasts, Window to the Universe. For more, please visit risalenortv.com. Goodbye.